All right, welcome back to the garage. Today is a new day and we are going to start working on this head. Our goals for today is we're going to get this head cleaned up real nice. We're using our parts washer. We're going to get all this junk off of it. We're going to deck the bottom, and then we are going to reseal all the valve stems. Once we get that done, we're going to come over here and we're going to be cleaning our block. As I showed you on the last episode, we are going to be scraping off all of that leftover gasket material and just running through a quick decking. Then we'll make sure everything is flush and level. And then once everything's clean, all pretty, we are going to put that head back on. So we will go to that point. Alrighty, so we got our head all nice and cleaned up. As you can see, it's not that bad looking of a head. It's real nasty. We got all the injectors removed. We got everything cleaned out, all that grease, oil. So now comes the part where we're gonna get our razor and we're gonna start taking off all that old gasket material. Get you a razor that looks like this. This is what I prefer to use. Some guys use one that's kind of almost like a pry bar. We're going to scrape all this gasket material off, and then we're going to go through and deck our head. Now how we're going to deck it is get you a sanding block, one of these rubber blocks. I believe I bought this at Home Depot, and some 2000 wet dry grit sandpaper. And what we're going to do is we're going to get our sandpaper on here, get us a little bowl of water. Now we're gonna wet it, and we're gonna come through, and we're just gonna go through the whole block, like so. And that's gonna kind of clean it up, get rid of any soot, any buildup, so that we have a nice clean mating surface for our head gasket. And once we're done with that, like I said, we're gonna come back over here, and we're gonna do the exact same thing to the block. Now the block's just going to go a little quicker just because we don't have to clean it with our solvent. So this one's just going to go a little quicker. Then once that's done, we will go ahead and slap our head gasket on, put our head back on, and we'll be good to go from there. Go. There's our head decked. There's a little bit of carbon left on it, but if you want it to get it perfectly clean, you got to take it into a machine shop. But I ran my fingers over it, couldn't feel any lips or grooves, and it's pretty smooth. So now we're going to go onto this and pretty much do the exact same thing. Luckily this one will go just a little quicker, so let's dive in. Okay, so we have our block decked, all nice and cleaned up. The best that we could do. So we're gonna get that covered up with a towel just to kind of keep all the debris out while we work on our head. So when we are removing these valve springs, there's a retainer, and then there's a little retainer keeper. It is, let me get one of these springs out. There's this itty bitty little keeper that hold these valve springs in place. Now, the best way to get those out is to take you a big socket, put it on top of your valve, and then you get yourself a dead blow hammer. Don't use a solid rubber, use one that has sand in it, and you hit it. And as you hit it, it's going to compress that down, and these keepers are going to come out. And it's nice because you've got that socket to kind of keep them contained, so that if they do decide to kind of spring out, it'll catch them and you don't lose them all over your shop. Then once you get them all off, you're going to go take you a screwdriver, a little pry bar, and these ones are all brand new, but you're going to pry up on the bottom of that seal, and it just pops right off. You can take it, put your new seal on, put a little socket over the top, tap it down till it clicks and snugs. To put your spring back on. Now, this is the part when I would use a valve spring compressor. I don't recommend using the clamp style ones that kind of clamp over your spring like so, and then you can screw down and compress it, because they slip off, and then next thing you know, you've shot a spring and these keepers into orbit, and you are going to be in a world of hurt. They make ones that screw in, and they kind of work like a pry bar. You can pry down on the top of them, it pushes down the valve spring, and you can push your keepers in. Or Harbor Freight has one, it's a C-clamp that you'll see later, that it clamps around the head and it pushes down these springs to get those keepers in there. So we're going to go through and we're going to redo all the exhaust and intake valves. We're going to reseal them all, and then after that's done, we are ready to stab our head. So this is that valve spring compressor that you can pick up from Harbor Freight. That one's actually real nice because, as you saw, it clamps down over the head. Back side goes on the valve, front side goes on your spring. It's got this lever here that you can press down. It holds it in place while you have that opening to be able to push your keepers in there. And then you can just lift up on this lever, it opens up. I don't know why I haven't used that sooner. It's a lot easier than, and a lot better than that one from you get from O'Reilly's. So sweet. So there we have it. We have everything back on. Now it's time to just go through, make sure everything's clean again, maybe get things re-cleaned up if needed. Then I'm gonna stab that head. It's important to make sure you clean your threads on your block. So either get a die or a tap. You get a tap and then clean out those threads, or you can get an old head bolt that has really clean threads. Make sure you clean them up real good, and then just thread them in and out a couple of times. Make sure that those threads are clean. And then once you stab your head gasket and you're putting your bolts in, make sure you dip them in oil. Clean, clean oil. And then I believe they also recommend to oil up the lip of the head bolt as well, so that you won't have any issues, so that a bolt doesn't go from righty-tighty to righty-loosey. It'll be in for a very bad day. So we're going to get this head stabbed, and I'm going to get back up to that point. Okay, so I got the head back on. What I ended up doing was I took some old head bolts, I cut off the top, and then I cut a little notch in each of them, and I used them all as alignment studs. Threaded them into the block, put my head gasket on, and then I was able to just ease the head over these studs, and then I used a screwdriver to get them out. So that was pretty easy. Now we're going to go through and we are going to start torquing down our head. We're going to get our head bolts. Make sure you get your new head bolts. You're going to dip them in oil, and then you're going to start threading them in. Get them all snug by hand. Once they're all tightened by hand, we're going to go through and torque them down in sequence. So get your book, get your piece of paper that has your torque sequence on it, put it up on your windshield so that you have easy access. I'm going to start from number 1, go all the way around, and we are going to first initially torque it to 59 foot-pounds. After everything's done, we're going to go through and torque it to 77 foot-pounds. After everyone is torqued, we're going to go through and recheck every single one at 77 pounds. Once everything is at 77 pounds, you are going to get your torque angle gauge, and you're going to put that on, and you're going to tighten it an additional 90 degrees. That is what is recommended with head bolts. If you have head studs, which I prefer, obviously with this build, they just weren't in the budget. Studs is you thread them down all the way till they bottom out, back them off a little bit, and then you put your washer and your nut on top, and then I believe its first go around is 60 foot-pounds, and then I think it goes back around at like 120 foot-pounds or something like that. I can't remember, it's been a minute, but then that's it. You don't have to angle them or anything. So you want to be careful when you're going to angle them. Don't get all western with it, just kind of ease slowly into that 90 degrees. Once you hit that 90, stop, and then that's it. These bolts are torqued to yield, so you don't have to worry about retorquing them after a certain amount of miles. They're good to go until, you know, hopefully not, but until 370,000 miles down the road, you need to replace a head gasket. So we're going to go ahead and do that. Once all the bolts are retorqued, we are going to start back putting our push rods in, our rockers, our tappets, and it'll be the same thing with those. Make sure they're all oiled up, put them back exactly in the cylinders that they came from, and then go ahead and torque those down too. For those, let me look. I'll have to look through and find the rocker arm bolts. $27 foot-pounds. Sorry, it took me a minute to read. So it's 27 foot-pounds for your rocker arm bolts. That's not much, but I always make sure you torque everything down. So we will get up to that point. All right, so every bolt is now torqued, plus the additional 90-degree turn. Those back ones, it can be a little pain. That's why I prefer to use studs, just because it's just 2 torque specs. You don't have to do angles or anything. But if you do bolts, it's doable. Yeah, it can just be a little pain sometimes getting everything set up, but I mean, never said this was going to be an easy job. So now it's kind of smooth sailing from here on out. We're just gonna make sure everything's kind of cleaned up, make sure all debris is out. Then we are going to reinstall all our push rods, make sure those are oiled too, dip them in oil. We're gonna reinstall our rocker arms, our tappets, our injectors. It might be easier just to do the injectors first and then go through everything. Then once that is all said and done, we are then going to go through how to lash the valves. That's going to also be a little time consuming, so make sure you have the patience to do it. Okay, so I got a lot done. After getting everything all torqued down, I got the injectors installed, the push rods reinstalled, and the rocker arms reinstalled. You want to make sure that those rocker arms and push rods go back exactly where they came from, and that they are very well oiled. With your push rods, don't just drop them in. Make sure that they can fit into that lifter socket. You'll feel a little resistance when you try to tug on it. Make sure you kind of lubricate everything with clean oil. Then after everything is in, torqued, ready to go, you are now going to lash your valves. You want to make sure that your valves are lashed. It's good to do every, honestly, it's almost like every 100,000 miles you want to recheck your valves. It can help the performance of your engine. Now, in order to do that, you need to make sure that your cylinder number 1 is at top dead center on your compression stroke. To do that on these 24 valve, this 1999 24 valve, there is a mark. Sometimes there's one on the harmonic balancer, and you have to make sure that's pointing directly up at 12 o'clock. Sometimes you can just eyeball it, but it's best not to. But right here on the front of your cover, your front gear cover, you have a TDC mark. And if you look, you take off your crankcase ventilation filter, you'll have access to your fuel injection pump. There is, I don't know if you can see that there. Try to get a little closer. There we go. So there's a mark right there next to that bolt, next to that nut. You want to make sure that that is lined up with your top dead center mark right there. If it is lined up, you are on top dead center compression stroke for the number 1 cylinder. Now, once you are there and ready to go, you want to make sure you have a set of feeler gauges. Here's your gauges, and your specification is 10,000ths of an inch, 0.010, and then for your intake valves, and 22,000ths of an inch, 0.022 for your exhaust valves. Now at this top dead center for cylinder number 1, we can check cylinders 1, 2, and 4 on the intake, and cylinders number 1, 3, and 5 on the exhaust. And tools you are going to need is these feeler gauges, depending on the model of the truck. For this one, you're gonna need a 14mm box wrench to go over your nuts, and this truck takes a Allen key, an Allen wrench. This one is a millimeter, it's a 5mm. That's gonna go right in there. So what you're going to do is one hand is gonna hold your Allen key, one hand's gonna hold your wrench. You're gonna hold that Allen key in place while you break that nut loose. Once that nut is loose, you're gonna get your feeler gauge on your intake, and you are going to stick it between your rocker arm and your little tappet down there. And as of now, I cannot get it in there at all, so it is too close. So I'm gonna loosen it until I can get resistance I'll get a slight drag on this feeler gauge. It kind of takes a while to get a good feel if you're new to it. I like mine a little on the tighter side, but that's just the feel that I like, where it feels good. You don't want a lot of loose play. You want to be able to feel resistance on your feeler gauge. So you're going to go through and do your cylinders, 1, 2, 4, and then for your intake, and 1, 3, 5 for your exhaust. Once you are done with that, you're going to rotate the engine 360 degrees until that timing mark for that fuel injection pump is facing down. So that would be top dead center for cylinder number 6. Once you're in that position, you're going to go and redo the same thing, but intake, you're going to do cylinders number 3, 5, and 6, and then exhaust cylinders 2, 4, and 6. And then once you're done, oh, I forgot to mention, it's like once you get good resistance, hold down your Allen key and you're going to tighten your nut. I want to say as tight as you can, like you want it pretty snug, and then go back and check your resistance. You're going to do that kind of over and over again. So this part can just be a little tedious, but then once you're done, everything's adjusted. You slap your valve cover back on, and then you start putting everything else back on to make the engine run. It makes a world of difference having those valves lashed, that the truck kind of just purrs. So we're going to go ahead and get started on that. And then once we're done, we'll get everything back together and get this truck running. Alrighty, so we got the engine done. So once we got everything up and running, got everything flushed, when you take the injector lines off, you need to bleed the system. The best way to do that is on your injection pump right here. You're going to loosen that nut. That is a 17 millimeter. And then what you're going to do is you're going to turn the key on and bump it where it turns the engine over, and it's going to kick on your priming pump. And you're going to watch this, and you're going to watch for that fuel spray out. When it's spraying out fuel and all the air is gone, you're gonna tighten that down. And then to bleed your lines, you're gonna bleed the lines on cylinders number 3, 5, or 3, 4, and 5. You're gonna loosen those up, get all the air out of those lines. You might have to do it for the rest as well. Sometimes you might have to come down to that side of your injection pump and turn on your, or not turn on, but then undo your bolts down there. And then sometimes you might have to just give a little shot of ether. It's not recommended for these engines though, but now that we got it running, it runs nice and smooth. It's loud, but you can tell it runs a lot smoother than it did. And so we're gonna do a quick startup. You can hear how it sounds, and then that'll be it for this job. And this is how, thank you for joining me on this process of how to redo a head gasket in truck for a 1999 Ram 2500. Thanks for watching.